Vimmers and aspiring Vimmers. Welcome to Vim. We're going to talk about Vim. If you want to ask questions during the presentation, I have questions.devsec.club up on my phone, so I will probably see it. And that is not a real domain. So you should also go to Computer Club's attendance at attendance.dsucomputer.club. That. I don't know why I didn't save on the slide. Okay. So you're probably wondering, what is Vim? And if you're not wondering that, you're wondering, why does it matter? So let me answer that with two more questions. Why text editors in general? If everything is a file, which it is on Linux, then that means you can edit literally everything with a text editor, right? Because it's text. Cool. So you're going to spend a lot of time in a text editor in your cyber career, which hopefully is long and fruitful. So why Vim as your text editor? Number one, it's fast, it's efficient. Number two, it's cool and it makes you feel cool. That's the most important part. And number three, it's everywhere. Okay, so here's case study number one. Let's say you're trying to do your homework. Vim machine makes the text go vroom. So this is just me making a garbage, useless program. But as you can see, like if I want to replace the J letter with a different letter, I can do that pretty easily. Or if I want to copy this for loop, I can do that pretty easily. Actually, I'm going to change my Discord settings because I don't like the sound noises. There we go. Goodbye sound. Okay. So hopefully that, it's cool, text. Excellent. Point of view. You are doing a cyber competition. The Vim denier on the left will be frightened and angry because, let me make this full screen. Frightened and angry because they are unable to use Nano, their preferred editor. They try to install it, but apt is broken, as it often is. So it's not a good time if you're using Nano on a competition system. So competitions in this case would be like CCDC or any long-form mock where you have to edit on a Linux system. The Vim embracer on the right, the one basking in the holy light of Vim, instantly can edit the file they want to. This is obviously not a biased comparison. Case number three. Let's say you're editing text as your career. As I said before, cyber careers are basically, you're just being a text monkey. So let's say hypothetically that you spend all your time on a text editor, 8 hours a day, you're developing tools, you're writing reports, you're crafting exploits. And let's also say you save 10 seconds out of each minute by using Vim. 10 seconds out of a minute for 8 years, for 8 hours, for 30 years means you save 14,000 hours, or about 5 years of your life just by using Vim. Vim will literally give you another lifetime. It'll give you a second chance. Side note, another benefit of Vim is that you know how to use other Linux tools easier, like the less bindings of G and G to go to the top and bottom, and the searching binds and the tmux binds for command mode. You'll see a lot of things use the same standards or traditions. And here's some memes. More simply, non-Vim users be like, and I'm not going to read the meme to you, but it's saying it takes a long time to edit text. And then here's a really cool meme I cooked up in my Boomertorium. Individual on the left says, no, you can't just jump between words and paragraphs, use test objects, and be able to quickly edit on almost any Nix platform. You're toppling big RSI. Informed individual on the right says, haha, Vim machine go burr. I can tell this is very entertaining. So here's a brief history lesson. In the beginning, there was ed, pronounced ed, stands for editor, as you might be able to tell. And then people made some other ones. Stallman likes Emacs, the GNU people. It's basically an operating system in a text editor. And other people like Vi, or now Vim. Vi was the first edition, the first, type of it made by Bill Joy. And then later, Bram Molinar, who you see in the screenshot, made Vim improved, or Vi improved. So that's that. If you ever see Vi on an older system and it doesn't have the same binds you would expect from Vim, that's probably why. Cool. So welcome to Ratatouille. I know you guys are, you didn't apply for this job, but you got it. You've been hired as a waiter or a plongeur, and you need to accurately and quickly manipulate the orders in order to assure that Ratatouille runs smoothly. Look at him. He's a rat. The catch here is we can only use text files because his rat phone doesn't support other formats. I know this is really distressing for you, but we'll get through it. We will edit text. So here's the lab link, or the SSH. You guys are all command line wizards, presumably. So I'm not going to explain the parts of it unless you guys want me to. So I'm already logged in, but if I wasn't, I'd go like SSH Vim learner at diffsec.club, port 4019. 4019. So it asks you for the password. The password is password1bang, as you might assume. And then you log in. So that's that. I'm going to stalk people logging in. So it appears that about 5 of you have logged into this machine. This is a quick bash script if you don't know what I'm doing. Excellent, we'll take it. If you have any issues, you can just say something or ask me a question in questions.devsec.club. Excellent, moving on. Oh no, I accidentally clicked the rat. So this is an obligatory disclaimer. I'm going to send a lot of binds your way through visual input, and it's okay if you're not able to, absorb them all because it is pretty much just a fire hosing. But if you just pick up the ones you like, pick up a few, that's good enough. And you can always refer back to the presentation or, learn Vim your own way. You're free to do so. So here's an overview. I've split up into 6 super cool categories, the ones in green being fairly easy, these ones being medium easy, and these ones being kind of not easy. Because get it, they're food, because it's Ratatouille. Anyway, so these tiers are my opinion on binds. If I see a cool bind, I might put it in tier 1, and then tier 2, tier 3, self-explanatory. So welcome to pizza, or movement. When we launch a file in Vim, you just say Vim and then the file name. So in this case, it's going to be vim pizza.txt. Let me take you there. Oh, don't look at that. That's in the future. So we're in the old orders folder. So when you get in, you're in the home folder, right? This little thing. So you want to cd into the orders folder. You'll see there are some files here which correspond to the categories. Who would have thought? So we're going to vim pizza.txt. Great. And like it says chef's instructions over here. I zoomed in a little bit too much, but that's okay. Subplunger. Looks like we got a prank calls this morning and we're drowning in pizza orders. We're just going to say keep one of each order and get rid of all the extra letters. So extra letters like pesto and please. So first order of business is how do we move up and down, right? You can press these 4 buttons, H, J, K, L, move left, up, down, right, respectively. So J goes down in the file, L goes to the right, H to the left, J down, and K up. If you want to remember these, you can remember the absolutely useless mnemonic H. Right, it's right with a front and with an H in front of it. So if you try to edit, you're going to get a warning for read-only file. I'll talk about more of that later. H right, jump. Oh wait, that's not even right. Wow, it's J down, K up, and L to the right. That's easy to remember, right? Excellent. So you really only use J and K to go down and up respectively, because there are much easier bindings going left and right. So W will go forward 1 word, B will go back 1 word. So obviously that's much more efficient than jumping 1 character at a time. Okay, so I assume there are no issues with that. So you might be wondering, why HJKL? Why not just the arrow keys like a normal person? Well, you actually can use the arrow keys, right? That's me using the arrow keys, not that you can tell. But originally, Bill Joy, creator of Vi, used an ADM3A terminal, which I've never used one. It's from like old, but as you'll see, the arrow keys are over the H, J, K, and L, right? There are no arrow keys on the actual keyboard. So that's why they use these keys, and it just kind of carried over. All right, so now let's actually delete the file. So you notice that when we press J for down, K for up, or any of those characters, they're not actually being written to the screen. They're more like bindings or commands. That's how Vim is going to work. We're going to talk more about that later. But right now, while you're in this mode, you can type DD to delete a line. That was me pressing DD 3 times to delete a line. So the chef instructions said, keep one of each order and get rid of the extra letters. So I'm going to delete this one and this one. So now we only have pesto pizzas with extra garlic. and boneless pizza with no extra letters. So just navigate your way over with WB. Once you're over a letter, oh, it's kind of lagging. Once you're over a letter, you can press X and delete it, just like that. So now we basically did what Chef Remy wanted of us. Okay, so modes. Vim is a modal editor. That means a button you press in one mode might do something different in another mode. In fact, I would be impressed if it didn't. So right here, when you press H, J, K, and L and it moves, that's called normal mode. This is what you get put into when you first start up Vim. So most buttons are not actual key presses, or not actual like input to your file, but are commands. For what you might be expecting is insert mode. So if we type I for insert, we go into insert mode, and then we can start typing, and things we type actually appear on the screen. This is probably much more useful, but in programming and text editing in general, you spend a lot more time actually moving text around and copying and pasting than actually typing new words. That's the rationale behind normal mode being the default. Command mode from insert mode. So if you're in insert mode, you can get back out by pressing escape, or one of my favorite bindings is you can do control left bracket. Yeah. So control left bracket will also escape it, but you can just use escape. Control left bracket is a little less RSI inducing because you can press, it's like your fingers are already close to it, so you can press control left bracket. It's much closer than escape. And command mode. You can press colon from normal mode, and this little colon thing at the bottom pops up, and you can type into it. You'll notice that wherever you are on the file, it's at the very bottom. And those are commands you'll type. We'll talk more about those later. Are there any questions or concerns at this point? It's kind of not very impressive, like, oh, Vim is so cool, you can delete lines, but it'll be cool, I promise. So in case you didn't get it out of the last slide, here are the things you should have absorbed. That's supposed to be left bracket, please ignore. I is insert, this goes to command mode, and then escape. I'm going to put that in tier 2 because it's less ergonomic than control left bracket. Cool. So how are we going to submit our order to Remy? This is not part of Vim. This is an extra program I made. So we are going to write %, exclamation mark, order up, and then %. So we get a note at the top that says from Remy. Looks great. Good job. So we completed the instructions correctly. If we didn't do the instructions correctly, it would say something's off. You're missing, and then a line. So this is just to give you some feedback on if you're doing things correctly, because everyone needs some feedback from Remy. So what this is actually doing, this means send the current buffer, so your current file, to a command. That's what the bang means, or the exclamation mark. And then the command name is order up. That's just a binary I made on this system. And then this means send it. It's the same character as before, but it means something different. It means send your file name. So this is like saying send the contents of the file to this program with my file name. And then it'll say, you did it, yay, go team. So now the infamous question. How do you quit Vim? You're here, and you don't want to be here anymore. So people like to joke about this, even the illustrious Andrew Kramer, famous Vim denier. No, he's cool. But people like to joke about it, right? Your editor is so cool, why can't I exit it? That should be like the easiest thing to do. You just press the X button. It's not that difficult. It can be a little harder if you're in a VM where you can't press escape or some other weird environment, but control left bracket works too. So number one method to quit Vim is to do right quit. So you press colon and then you do WQ. So unfortunately, you see that won't work here because I didn't give you guys write permission to these files because that would just be chaos. So you're gonna have to Q and then exclamation mark to discard your changes. This is force quit. If you do just Q, it says no writes and /change. Add exclamation mark to override. Method number 2, which we'll talk about more later, is ZZ. If you press capital ZZ in normal mode, it will save and quit. All right, so let's head over to the kitchen where you can actually change files. If you go up and then go into kitchen, you'll see there's nothing there. So let us make files. Vim is awesome.txt. So I can put stuff in that. Excellent. Content. So if I want to write and save it, I can do WQ, and that'll write and quit. I can just do W, And if I want to save this file content to a different file, I can do write and then like a new file name. And that will create cool.txt right there. So that's that. The ZZ trick that I don't think too many people know about is if you capital Z, it'll just save and quit. And it's easier than opening command mode because it's fewer buttons. Does anyone have any questions on that aspect? You can make files using W or Vim, and then you can right quit in a bunch of different ways. Cool. So let's say while you're in your kitchen, you want to undo something, as you often do. Like I just wrote that and I'm like, that's garbage. I can't use that. I press U, lowercase u, in normal mode, and then it undoes it. If I decide later that it was actually great, I can press Control R and redo it. So that's U to undo, Control R to redo. So do. Go team. Okay. Hopefully you guys vibe on that. Going back to orders. Oops. So if we open up soup.txt, we will see a lot of chef's instructions. And there is instructions that Remy gave us to change this. So this appears to be some kind of recipe for gamer soup, which doesn't sound too appetizing, but you know, we're not paid to eat, we are paid to work. So you get into insert mode, right? Normal mode, or what you would normally expect, right? Not normal mode, by pressing I. But that's really kind of cumbersome, right? You press I and then you're like, let's say I wanted to add something to the end of this line. I would have to be like insert, hold arrow key or WW and then insert. What if I'm right here and I want to start writing at the end of the line? I can do capital A for append, and then I'm there at the end of the line and I'm in insert mode. We did it. So the instructions here say add and repent to the end of one of the sobbing instructions. So that appears to be great. So here are a bunch of instructions that say sob and think about what you've done. So if we add and repent with our A binding, it's super fast, super fresh, super easy, and it's just a great time. So that's that one done. If we want to add something to the end of the file, we can use these movements over here. GG goes to the top of the file, and capital G goes to the bottom of the file. So we can go like do, jumping back and forth. So if I want to add something to the end of the file, I could do capital G. And then if I want to add a new line after this, normally you'd have to go to like the end of the line and then press enter, right? But here you can just do open or O, which creates a new line afterwards and put you in insert mode. That's one of my favorite bindings. So again, if you missed that, it's just lowercase o, new line after a file or after a line. And then right here I can say pay, press F to pay respects. Great, we did it. Jump back to the top of a file. Done. All right, so right here it asks us to change Cheeto dust to Talkie dust. So I don't know where Cheeto is, and I'm not interested in reading this entire thing. So I can search for Cheeto by pressing /, which means search down. So I'll be searching all text from here to the end of the file. So I press Cheeto, and then I find it right here. Add 2 pounds of damp Cheeto dust. So if I want to change that to Talkie dust, then I can do a few things. I can delete the word by pressing DW, and then go into insert and type Talkie. Or I can do a new binding, which is C for change. I can CW, and that deletes the word and puts me in insert mode. So then I can be like Talkie. There we go, we did it. More searching shenanigans. If we want to look up and down, so like let's search for grime. If you want to go to the next match, you can type N, which it looped back around. And if you want to go to the previous one, you type capital N. This isn't too good because there's only 2 mentions of grime. But N goes down to the next match, and capital N goes back up to the previous match. So / for searching. If you want to search up first, you can also do question mark, but that's less useful. So like let's say I was right here and I wanted to look at sneeze. If I wanted to get this sneeze before this sneeze, I could do question mark and type sneeze, and then it would go up first. Line operations, if you want to go to the start of the line, you can press 0, bottom of or end of the line, $. So $0, $0, $0. I almost never use these. They're pretty much worthless. Jump to a certain line, you can do line number. So let's say line 10 and then GG, and it'll jump to line 10. Great. So yeah, you're probably hopefully feeling a bit overwhelmed by now, but that's cool. Just pick like a few. Like if you take O, which makes the new line after and puts you in insert mode, and capital O, which does the same thing but above the current line, and capital A, I'd say that's a victory. Okay, so Vim is super cool, and it doesn't want you repeating binds, right? So let's say you go to the bottom here, and you're like, well, I want to add more repenting. So I can say and repent. So that was a capital A and then typing and repent, and I can type dot to do the same thing to the next line, or the same operation, which was A and then write the text. So I can do dot down, 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 and it's much faster than typing it manually. I think you would agree. So let's pound through the rest of the instructions. We want to prepend genuine to all mentions of gamer. So I say we search for gamer, looking down, and then we type I and then genuine for insert mode. And then we can type dot to do the same thing. And that's it. That one's done. We want to replace sneeze with cough and sneeze. We can basically do the same thing. This is a lot of text editing, right? You just go to it. And then for this one, we're already there, but if we weren't at the start of the line, we could do capital I, which would go to the front of the line and type and go into insert mode. So if I was over here, capital I brings me to the start of the line. So it's like the opposite of capital A. There we go. So we're done with this. Go team. More movements, you can type curly brackets. If you type curly bracket like this, this one, you'll jump a paragraph, and a paragraph is what you pretty much would expect. This is movement with Vim text objects, which we'll talk more about later. If you want to move sentences, you can use parentheses, which is kind of the same in this case because there's no punctuation in this sobbing block, but usually it would be different. A cool thing for programming is if you press %, you can jump to a matching bracket. So you see I have open bracket right here, and then close bracket down here. So I can jump between them. That's cool. Go Vim. All right, so we're heading over to pasta. You can press Q ! To exit out this one again. More instructions. Oh my god, I hate this job. Okay, so yank is Vim's version of copy, and it's with Y. So it puts whatever you yanked into a unnamed register. That's it doesn't really matter, but basically that means when you yank something, so like YY, I just copied this screen because your stupid filthy rat line, and when I paste it, yeah, I know I'm editing a read-only file. When I paste it, it pastes that line. But if I deleted make the noodles, right? I didn't copy it. If I deleted it with DD, then when I P for paste, it will paste the make the noodles line instead of the scream line. That's because yank and delete copy to the same buffer. So if you ever run into that, that's why. If I want to copy a line, it's YY. If I want to copy 3 lines, it's 3YY. 3 lines yanked. Thanks, Vim. So the instructions say copy the make the noodles and cook the noodles instructions 5 times and change the 1 to the corresponding iteration. It also says remove all those steps that involve screaming and delete all steps after adding the pasta sauce. So I'm going to just 5 DD for deleting 5 lines here. Or I'm just going to and then I can copy this with 2 YY. So I just copied the make the noodles and cook the noodles line. And then down here, if I want to paste it, I can type P. If I want to paste it twice, I can do 2P. Yeah. Okay, so this is more on counts motion operations. So I delete a line with DD, and then if you want to delete 2 lines, 2DD. So W, for example, is a motion. So DW operates on the word to delete it. D2W is the same as 2DW, which is delete 2 words, and that would be the count. If you type J, it goes down. If you type 10J, it goes 10 down. So this double thing means the whole line is applied to a lot of other commands. So like CC is change the whole line. YY is yank the line. So if that makes sense. So right here, we want to delete after this is the pasta sauce line, and the instructions say remove everything after the pasta sauce. So I want to delete from here to the end of the entire file. So what I can do is I can type D and then capital G, which is end of the file. So that was D capital G. And that deletes from wherever I am to the end of the file. So as you might know, it's easier to do that than like slurping it up with your mouse. Some other examples here, I can change the end of the file. I can delete to the end of this sentence, right? So the end of the sentence was right there because it's a period, and then deleted it. Super rad. I can yank to the end of the paragraph, etc., etc. So these are any movements, anything that brings your cursor from one place to another can be combined with a command or operation. Another cool trick is you can change numbers. I use this one a lot. You can do Control A to increase the number on the line. See that 2 became a 3. And then you can just keep pressing it. So I press Control A twice. If you want to decrement something, you can do Control X, which will reduce the number. So let's say I wanted to make this 4. I could do Control A twice, or as you might have guessed, I can do 2 Control A. So that's another count and operation. And this one's 3 Control A. And there we go. I made 1 through 5. So it looks like we have completed the instructions. Let's give them a quick order up. Remy says, looks good, great job, etc. We did it. We're doing great work. We're probably not going to be fired. So does anyone have any questions at this point? Vim, great. Okay, so welcome to the second to last stage, Ratatouille. At the top here, we see more instructions from Chef, and it says, replace plongeur with willing sacrifice. It asks us to remove all the parentheticals, and every time there's a thank you, copy and paste it 3 times, and replace rat with capital R, rat. So something we should acknowledge before we get into this wonderful task is there are often uppercase and lowercase versions of commands. So like, you press W to jump a word, but what if you wanted to jump a word that had like a semicolon in it? If I press W, it stops at the semicolon because that is a word lowercase delimiter. But a capital W word, like capital word, means jump anything delimited by blank space. So I jumped over the semicolon and straight to the next word because that was capital W. Same with B. B stops at that, but if I do capital B, it jumps past it. So these are pretty worthless, right? Like it's good to know they're there, and there's a lot of them. So like if I want to delete to the end of the line, I could do capital D. If I want to change to the end of the line, I could do capital C. But mostly you can find alternatives to these. They're just cool little tricks. Something I use a lot is Control V or Shift V for line select mode. So let's say you want to delete from here to here, right? These lines. You could guess them like that's 4 lines-ish, right? But you could also just press Shift V, which brings up visual line mode, and then just press down, and it will select to wherever your cursor is. So if I want to delete these 4 lines, I could just select them and then press D, and it deletes it. Same with copying. If I wanted to copy it, I'd select these, and then I press Y. Again, that was Shift V for visual line mode, and then you can move your cursor. So that's that. More tricks, more core tricks that didn't fit anywhere else. You can use autocomplete. So if I was like Ratatouille and I didn't want to type it again, I could do rat and then type Control N or Control P. And it's like, do you want rat or Ratatouille? And I'm like, Ratatouille. So that's autocomplete. It's very useful if you have like long variable name and you don't want to type it again. You can use Control P or Control N for autocomplete. So very cool. Another cool thing that is useful for when you want to operate on large files is you can use substitute. So as you may or may not remember, this means buffer of the current file, and then that means pump it to the substitute command, and then we got to fill this out. So this is what it was previously, so I'm going to replace plunger, if I can spell it right, with willing sacrifice. That's the first instruction right here. There we go. And you see it replaced all the mentions of plunger with willing sacrifice. So that's super useful for when you want to replace like all variables in a program or something. All right. So now I get to talk about Vim options and objects. Completely unrelated, don't get them mixed up. So Vim has a ton of options, right? When you have a program and you want to change things, these are options. So let's say I wanted to add line numbers, I could do set RNU, which is relative line numbers, or relative numbered So you can see this is kind of weird. It starts at 0, and it's based off where my cursor is. This is useful for like if I want to copy 10 lines down, I can see the numbers on the side from where I currently am, and I don't have to do extra math. So if I want to delete to right here, I can do 10dd, and it deletes it. Cool. Another cool one is you can type set list, and that will show you all the white space in the file. $ means end of the line. Not quite sure what that means, but it'll show you white space. If you want to disable these, you can say set no list or set no RNU, and that will remove it. Another cool thing, if you can't read colors on your terminal, you can type color scheme and then just pick one. You can press tab or shift tab to cycle through them front and back, or forward and backwards respectively. So my favorite is Wolrd. So you won't be able to see any colors in this file because it isn't syntax highlighted. But if it was C or any programming language that had syntax highlighting, it would show up and it would be different colors. Vim text objects. Let's get it. So Vim kind of parses text into different things based on rules. That's not very specific. But let's say I wanted to edit inside these quotes. Normal text editor would be like, yeah, I click right here and then I delete it. But Vim, you can just start at the front of the line and then be like, change in quote. And then I'm in the quote, which is super handy. So that was CI and then quote. So there are a lot of text objects. So let's say you had like an HTML tag, like here's your HTML tag, and you're like, hello. If you wanted to change inside the tag, you could do CIT and T for tag, and that means, yeah, I can type in it. If you wanted to delete inside the tag, you could do DIT. If you wanted to delete outside the tag, like delete the whole thing, you could do DAT, and it's gone. We did it. We killed it. So that looks like a good solution for this one right here. Remove all parentheticals. So I want to remove the die at the end here. So I'm going to do DA and then closing parenthesis. So for most of them, you have to be already inside the object. So if I'm right here, I could do DA and then end. So that looks like that. So DA and then the end quote, end parenthesis. Yeah, text objects. So it considers this parenthetical a text object that you can edit on. If I want to change inside of it, of course it's CI and then ending parenthesis. Like that. Very cool. Yeah, I don't know how much of that you guys retained, but I hope a fair amount. So I'm going to go through and delete the rest of them, the rest of these parentheticals. So when you're inside of it, that's considered like it knows which text object you're talking about. So DA end parenthesis. There we go, they're all gone. All right. So I'm going to use the substitute command again to replace plunger with Winley sacrifice. There we go. So that's 1 and 2 done. And now I'm going to use visual mode, super handy, to copy the thank you. So I copy it and then I go to the bottom and I do 2P. And there we go. It's copied 3 times. Yank. So that was Shift V for visual line mode. J down, Y for yank, and then 2P. You have to be at the bottom of it, 2P. We'll paste it twice. Or you could just paste it and then you have to go down again and then paste it. So there's that. Let's see what else the instructions want us to do. It wants us to replace rat with rat. So again, we can just do rat. Substitutions made. So all I did was current buffer substitute rat with rat. So that's what it was previously. That's what it wants to be. So there you go. And we're done. Let's see what Remy thinks. So this is me pressing up arrow in the command mode to go back to my previous things. Remy says, I'm missing willing sacrifice with willing sacrifice. We're going to ignore that and think Remy's on crack. So quit exclamation mark. All right, so another thing I want to talk about is Vim help. So usually, help is like something you don't read because it's just monstrous. Like let's look at the help for syscalls. Wow, rude. I'm in Vim. I meant the man pages. So if you do man syscall, this is okay. I must be on crack. If I go to man, then you see like this just is kind of overwhelming. But Vim help is really approachable, and I think people would benefit from employing it. So if I'm inside of Vim, then I can do help. And here's some cool examples that you can do. If you just type help, it's like, okay, clearly you're looking for some guidance. So it tells you how to move around, tells you how to quit, tells you how to jump to a certain subject, all that. So this may not make too much sense. Hopefully you know what the different modes are, right? Normal mode is what we're in right now. Visual mode, we can't go in visual mode. Now we can. So this is insert mode. This is visual mode, where you select things, command line, and etc. So some more cool things is if you want to know what the parenthesis does, right, the movement, you can do help parenthesis. Okay, it's angry that I changed this file. I can do help parenthesis, and then it'll say, this is a motion counting sentences forward. So this means you can put a number in front of it. So if I want to jump 2 sentences forward, I can do 2 parenthesis. If you want to know what P does, which is put or paste, you can type help P. And it's like, puts the text from register X after the cursor, count times. And it'll show you what changed from Vi, if anything. Because remember, Vi is the older one, the original version. And if you want to just really go ham, you can do help user table of contents.txt or user talk. And then you see, this is basically like the manual for Vim. Have you ever wanted to know how to write a Vim script? Then you can type help user 41.txt and it will tell you how to write a Vim script.
Vim.
Vim. Okay, so Souffle. As you know, souffles are hard. So there are a ton of things you can do with Vim, right? Some of them are useless. So let's say you want to rot13 something, you could do that. No one asked. Well, I guess someone asked. But the bind to do this is G question mark and then a movement. So $ will be to the end of the line. So this one says, I will ascend and become the one and true. If you don't want to see that anymore, you can do G question mark again and then end of the line. So there are a lot of things, and some things just aren't worth learning. Like rot13 is cool, but don't spend too much time learning useless things. Some more useful things. Well, first let me rot13 this whole page. Okay. So if I wanted to make this lowercase, I could do G lowercase u and then a motion. So that was GU $ for the rest of the end of the line. If I want to make it uppercase, I can do G capital U $. There we go. So again, you can do this with any motion. So when I say motion here, that's like any jump. So $ is end of the line, W is word. That's like a paragraph forward. That's a sentence forward. So let's change this paragraph to lowercase, GU, and then a curly bracket forward. And it looks like we've changed all that. So if you want to search for, this is a different thing. If you want to search for the word under your cursor, you can type asterisk or Shift 8, and it will search for it. So this is all usage of the word mortals. Kind of cool-ish. So this is something you guys should probably stray from, but if you do set mouse equals A, you can start using your mouse. Like I'm clicking and selecting with my mouse. And it's cool because you can like click right here, but it also means your hands are not on the keyboard, which overall means worse performance, worse gamertude. So you can use it if you want, but you should try not to because it's like it's a bad crutch. Finally, for this slide, you can do a add comments trick. So the blockwise visual mode that we showed before, which selects like a block instead of lines. If you do that all at the start, and then you type Shift I or capital I, and then you put something there, it'll take a second, and then the rest of it comments it out. So I didn't memorize that one after like I had to use it a lot to memorize it. So don't feel bad if you are not going to remember any of these. But if you do, more power to you. All right, I think this is pretty much the last thing. Marks and macros. So if you want to mark somewhere in the file, like let's say I wanted to mark Act 1, I could do MA, and that creates the mark of A. Lowercase marks are within the same file, uppercase are between different files. So then I go around, I'm like, okay, I'm lost now. I want to go back to Act 1. I can do backtick, and then A, and I jump to Act 1. If I want to jump to the start of the line where I put the mark, which I know is a very common request, I can do single parenthesis or a single quote, and then the mark name. So this won't always be A. If you say MZ, then this would be backtick Z, and this would be a single quote Z. And then finally, macros. This is more of like a taste. So don't, if you can't get it working, that's okay. You can type Q, and then you can type a letter, much like marks, and it will say recording G at the bottom here. And then whatever I do here, like let's say I delete a line, I make a new line, I slam my keyboard, then I type Q again, that recorded the G macro. So now I can go through and type at G, and it will do the same thing. It's kind of hard to tell that it did the same thing, but it did. So that was at G, because I named my macro G. If I want to do the same macro again, I can do at. It's just decimating my entire file. So that's that. So this is probably you, this cool stock photo I found. But again, it's if you only pick up a few bindings, or if this only inspires you to learn more Vim, or if you decide you're never going to touch Vim again. Most of those are victories. And once you get down a few, you can just pick up some more, right? It's a process, not like a all in one shot, all or nothing. So the number one tip I have, if you actually want to learn how to use Vim, is to just, use it regularly. Like if you try to learn it once and then don't touch it for a year, it's probably not going to stick very well. So my favorite way to do this is to install Vim bindings for Atom or VS Code or whatever IDE you use. It probably has Vim bindings. VS Code is not as good as Atom for Vim bindings, but use whatever you want. And for people here, they probably have C homework or something for a CS computer science class. So try using Vim for it. You might enjoy it. It might make you take longer, but that's okay. So by my estimation, I think if you just shotgun Vim for 1 month, you should be able to remember most of the shortcuts. Right? It's just kind of intuitive after a bit. Okay, so some resources if you want to learn more, you can look up Practical Vim, which is on the O'Reilly Safari. Or you could read a super cool Twitter I used to run, which was inspired by Mr. Andrew Kramer. And there's also a cool website here that you can't click, but if you visit the slides, you can click it, or you can just look it up, and they have a bunch of cool tricks. Any questions? Yeah, maybe. Here are links if you want to see more things. Here's the archiving of lessons, schedule of upcoming things, Drive, even though this is a computer club meeting. Okay, cool. Well, that's all I have. Thank you very much for your Vim patronage.